Okay, everyone, welcome. Thank you. Councillors and members of the gallery, please note that we're about to commence recording this meeting. Your video and audio will be recorded and live streamed from now onwards, and the video will be available on YouTube after the meeting is finished. So welcome everyone. I declare this council meeting, our ordinary meeting for October, open. I'll read the civic affirmation. We gather today to duly and faithfully carry out our duties to the best of our judgment and ability for the advancement of this district and the benefit of all of our community and fellow citizens. And the Coorong District Council members acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional custodians of the land and waters, the Ngarrindjeri people, whose ancestral lands are on which we meet today. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of Aboriginal people to country and pay our respect to elders past and present. We also extend that respect to all First Nation people. Thank you, everyone. Welcome. Start the agenda. Apologies, I have none. Councillors, on page 19, we believe, of your agenda, there's, I suppose I'll ask the CEO to sort of correct where we think there's sort of a mistake, please.
I
don't know. Page 19, I hope.
It's the Christmas and New Year office closure. The table at the bottom was what was going to happen. We have had some, as all councils across South Australia, an ombudsman report that is putting in some further restrictions around how we may do these events. And so the Friday the 8th of December is correct, but the office will not be closing. We will just be having an office lunch where people and staff will be in place, but we will also have a schedule around the office remaining open where we need to.
Does everyone know?
So just to clarify, there won't be like what we've done in other years. We're just going to do something in-house.
There's been some comment or direction from the Ombudsman around this sort of function. So we'll sort of follow that this year.
Only apply to local government through there, or all other government departments?
Oh.
I will circulate the advice that we got from Ombudsman. LGA are now having a debate with the Ombudsman around the appropriateness of his report and the findings, but at this point it's too early in the process. I think we need to take heed to it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just I'd like to, in acknowledgements, well, not acknowledgement, I'd like to welcome Shanti Ditta, sorry, I'll get that wrong. Shanti's acting in the Roads and Infrastructure Director's role for a few months until we go through the process, and so I'll welcome her to our council for a few months. And perhaps just before I get to acknowledgements is not really, but it was a busy week at the back end of this week, councillors. The street party for the dragsters is on Friday night in this town. I think most of you have been invited, and I hope you're involved in the bake-off at the Canalpin show on Saturday. No cheating. And Sunday will be the opening of the dragway out at the Motorsport Park, which is a feather in the cap of our community, but of the Motorsport Park now. So the three things this weekend we need to be a bit aware of. Number 3, conflict of interest. Do any members have any conflicts of interest to declare? It's not. I have. So I'll declare a general conflict of interest with regard to item 10.9, development assessment fees, waiver and refund policy. The nature of the interest for me is that I have land in this council area that I am developing, so it may affect that. I will stay in the room and vote in my case if required. I don't think will be required today, luckily. There's no others. Number 4, confirmation of minutes of the ordinary meeting, including the confidential minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of September. Councillor Orman, you're moving. You're a seconder. Councillor O'Hara is the seconder. Any discussion? Being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, it's carried unanimously. Number 5, we have no adjourned business. Number 6, Mayor's report, 6.1. I might just mention in public the we're very pleased to have the opening of the police memorial in Carlin Bend some weeks ago, and it's an excellent little memorial over by the milk shed by the railway station, and I would very much thank everyone involved, from the the police themselves, to the police memorial group, to our staff in particular. It ran really smoothly, a couple of lovely police greys, but it's appropriate that we acknowledge that that event went really nicely. Thank you. Any questions around my report, councillors? Councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and also just regarding that event we had in memory of the constable. Also, the Taliban historians put a lot of effort.
Yes, thank you. Yes, they certainly did.
And it was well attended. It was
Well
great.
attended.
Yeah, thank you.
Not, you didn't have anything else? Just correct me, mate. That's all right. Councillor Bland.
Mr. Mayor, yes, September 20th, Murray Lands Riverland Local Government Association discussion with Mayor Phillips. Just wondering what that was in relation to, that it's in the report.
So in relation to that, we had a phone discussion around a SAROC. I couldn't attend the SAROC meeting. Well, that was because of the police memorial, but then it's also been a SAROC working group or a convened in Adelaide, wherever it is there, that we discussed how we would handle what we wanted to put forward in the workshop around SAROC's performance.
Anything positive?
So the important part to remember about people who are on the SAROC committee, it is a subcommittee of the board. That's probably the most important part, and therefore, while the region at this stage votes to send 2 people from each of the 6 country regions to it, we are not there as delegates. We are there as board, as a subcommittee of the board. There's 2 parts to this. One is there's obviously a constitutional review going on in the LGA now, which will hopefully, and we made this pretty clear in the workshop, need to deal with quite a bit of the governance process around that. And the second part is what is the exact role of SAROC, and I might add GAROC in this forum. Being nothing else, we move on to council members' reports. Councillor Arthur, do you want to add any more to your report verbally? Councillor Rountree does want to ask you something.
I was just looking at the fact that there was no opportunity to ask questions on the climate emergencies lessons learned. I was wondering, why was that?
They just didn't have time.
They ran out of time?
That was what was said. Yeah, they'd run out of time, so they didn't have questions. Yeah, they did it a couple of times. Probably when there would have been contentious questions.
Contentious.
I think.
Yes.
Just happened to be that way.
That's unfortunate. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Peach.
Just a question through me regarding the laboratory testing road performance on unsealed road materials. Any further information?
Sorry?
The sticky stones,
Yeah.
further information that you could provide on that one?
Yeah, well, Rod Ellis has been presenting to these awards or these conferences for years from Tonkins Consulting. They do a lot of work with the LGA, and they've been trialling different sorts of polymers, cement, all sorts of different things on unsealed roads. And the one thing they have come up with for sure, and that was made the point by a couple of other speakers, is if you haven't got good quality rubber, you're wasting your time building roads, is what will. And I think they did a trial with poor quality, with mixing certain polymers with it, and the good quality rubber lasted for 11 months without having been touched. Poor quality lasted 2 months. So the emphasis, and it's been something he's been doing for quite a while. And Corey, of course, from Highway Stabilisers, who has been doing a bit of work with us. It was good to catch up with him, and they're doing the same sort of thing. We've actually done some roads with polymers and cement and all that sort of thing. So it's the new innovation, and hopefully it works. But the big emphasis is rubble. It's cheaper to cart it a long way and put rubbish on. And the West Coast councils have terrible trouble finding rubble. You know, I think it's Streaky Bastard Junior. They've actually got a drilling rig that goes around to put holes and see if they can find an area that is big enough to actually put a pin in.
Any other questions? Okay, we move on to councillor Qualman. You wish to expand on your report or?
Oh, thank you, Mr Mayor. It's pretty explanatory.
It is, yes.
Yes, it was quite interesting for the 2 days on something that's complex and interesting to hear the pros and cons about everything, and mainly about how townships are reliant on the river for their livelihood, and how lucky we are here and compared to some places that don't have any water at all sometimes. So it was really interesting. So hopefully we can all move forward as a nation to keep this valuable resource going.
Thank you. I might expand on what I didn't in my report around the conference. It was very well organised, very well attended, particularly by New South Wales delegates, I might say.
Yes. Yeah.
On the Tuesday, the tour went so that all tour participants crossed the barrages in a couple of little buses, which people haven't done for a long time, Councillor O'Hara. I don't know if you've ever did it, but no, it's really interesting to actually take people who have perhaps sometimes critics cross it. And there was a fair few of those black looking seals that were waving at us that some people thought were cute. But in terms of an educational opportunity for a lot of the delegates, that was very important. I managed to attend parts of each of the other days. But no, I think it was very well run conference this time, and yeah, thank you. Councillor Bland.
Question to those who went, really, a number of
Yep.
councillors, and that is the general feel, given that the tour was pretty much the lakes and the river is at its highest. And of course, everything's looking pretty good. Given other areas, as Councillor Cormann has said, there are areas without water. What was your general thoughts about the overall feel with those delegates from interstate?
Ooh, I'll tackle it. Some probably confirmed what they thought, and some were very surprised at the barrages. And I think if I could be, probably the people in attendance from the several bureaucracies that manage the river, they were probably the most enthralled with the bird life and that around the barrages. I think that'd be they were really, for a lot of people who've never been near it after all they've heard about it. We travelled the entire length of all the barrages. So just on this subject, having some discussions with the CEO and particularly with the Mayor of Murray Bridge around whether we shouldn't have a return sort of friendship visit, whether it's just a few of us or more than that, into northern Victoria and southern New South Wales, so we can understand their issues, just like it's allowed us to show them our issues. Perhaps for early middle next year is what I'm sort of thinking about. We'll see how that plays out. But no, I think it was very educational for people to see the lakes, quite literally. And one of our locals, Clem Mason, gave quite a speech, I suppose, or a storyline to people at Menengi. For both groups got the story.
Yes, it'll be interesting to know how many of those had actually seen it without water.
No, well, that's right. But that I think they were pleased to be sort of showing what a lot of us have never seen. You know, to cross the barrages is pretty rare. So that was courtesy of SA Water and Dew. So that was very good. Anything else, councillors? I move on. It's item 7, petitions. I have Neil. Item 8, deputations. I have Neil. Item 9, public question time. I have Neil, I think. Number 10, decision reports. 10.1, request for equipment, Canalpin District Soldiers Memorial Swimming Pool. There is a recommendation, councillors.
Can I have a question?
You can have a question first.
Thank you. With regards to the second to last paragraph on the response, it's in regard to the request for morning swim equipment such as ankle weight. So this isn't an aqua fitness class that has an instructor. It's simply a group of people that come and swim. So I'm not sure why there is conversation around an appropriately qualified instructor, because I don't have that anyway. And we're looking at dumbbells and ankle weights, which most people know how to use. So is there, I mean, I think it was about $100 in equipment costs. And wouldn't it be safer for council to purchase these items and make them only available to the morning swimmer, which the crew could lock them up so other people can't access them in the afternoon, rather than run the risk of people bringing their own, which could cause damage to the pool? So wouldn't it be better from our perspective to have equipment that we've approved rather than have people bringing things heavy like dumbbells and ankle weights that haven't been approved by council?
I'm going to ask the CEO to respond.
So I'll start to you, Mayor, and Miles can finish. The issue is not about the money to buy them or the fact that they may damage the pool. It is about the personal liability of a person wearing weights in a pool without correct supervision of a lifeguard. And the fact that we don't have an aqua fitness class is the important part as well. If it was an aqua fitness class, we would supply those dumbbells and things as part of the class, but it's a personal use of them. So from a risk perspective, if council issues those particular items, which have a high risk to them, without the correct supervision, then council is liable for any issue that may arise. If people bring their own equipment to use as part of their recreational use of the pool, it's entirely up to them and they carry the risk. So it's not about the budget and it's not about the damage to the pool itself. It's more about the risk that using those types of equipment pose to individuals. And if council is supplying them, then the risk stays with council. And we don't have lifeguards to do that, and we don't have aqua fitness classes.
Okay, but we do have a lifeguard that supervises in the morning.
I think the answer must be yes to that.
Yeah, because I think we do have a lifeguard. Okay, thank you.
So someone prepared to move the recommendation, please? Councillor Arthur is the mover. Is there a seconder? Councillor Qualman. Want to speak, councillor?
No, I think the report's quite extensive.
Seconder?
No, I'm happy. Thank you.
With
Mr.
it.
Mayor.
Anyone else wish to enter the debate? Closing.
Close.
I will put the motion as it reads. There's two parts in that recommendation. Councillors, all those in favour? Those against? So it's carried with councillors Roundtree and Peach voting against it. Councillors Arthur, Wallman, Maidman, O'Hara and Bland voting for. Carried. Number 2, Menengi Pelican Sculpture. The recommendation, we just receive and note the report. Someone prepared to move that way. Councillor Bland, are you moving that way?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And Councillor O'Hara is the seconder?
Another question, please, Mayor.
Yeah, certainly. Just give me a second. Yep.
So with the recommendation that we receive and note the report, do we need to add to that what the conclusion is? And that is, so even though it's in the report and the report saying it will just be offered to the Coorong Cottage Industries to have those two pieces. We don't need, that doesn't need to be in the recommendation. And the reason I ask that is when you go back and have a look at motions, it is easy to then, if you've got more information of what you're moving, without having to then go track back the agenda, if we just have some extra wording
you know,
into the.
Need to match the agenda to the.
I understand that,
minute.
but there is, what would stop us from writing a bit more in the recommendation that the council receive and note the report and agrees to give to cottage industries, blah, 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 and just, there's your statement.
I think we're offering it to them first and we've given them.
Well, whatever the wording is,
I
can we
know.
not put that
I-
into the recommendation?
And refer you minutes of recording of the decision. If people
is
need to
still
know
the
more, they
decision
can
through
go
the
back to the agenda, which is all online.
I understand that, but in the point of transparency and
Yeah.
clarity, it would just be easier to throw what we're actually doing in the recommendation instead of this generic receive and note, receive and note, receive and note. Put the specifics in there just for clarity.
Right.
That's my view.
Councillor Peach, though.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor, regarding liability to council. Am I correct in understanding that we are transferring ownership of these pieces to CCI? And that is the end of the matter as far as we're concerned.
That's why I read.
Councillor Bland.
I'm just in speaking to that, I would have no objection if the seconder doesn't, is to put that statement in as per councillor Roundtree that Coorong Cottage Industries be successful in their application and something around the responsibility solely becomes theirs, their liabilities or however, if necessary to do that.
What would you like the words to be?
It'd be good to have that. statement.
And the
If
Coorong
that adds
and
clarity.
CCI will become the owner of,
As a success, as they were the successful application will become the owner of the two pieces of these.
Ownership of the sculpture will transfer to CCI.
Yeah,
And then that may clarify both issues.
That's
I'll let the minute take them, write some words.
take ownership of.
Yeah, you better put sculpture there, otherwise people will think we're just giving away a collection.
Councillor, through you, Mayor, are you happy to enter sculpture?
Councillors, the two, the mover and the second, are happy with that?
Successful applicant CCI.
would it be ownership and responsibility or just we need
Ownership
to be
is-
specific?
Well, ownership means responsibility.
Okay.
I'm happy with that as the mover.
Councillor Hara, you happy with this rewrite?
Not putting responsibility in.
Wait, right. Councillors, this is, it's been amended from the original, that's fine. Anyone else? There's no one else. Someone's closing. Councillor Bland.
Closed.
Okay, the motion, as you can see, is on the screen as added some addition. Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously.
The seconder is not up there.
Councillor O'Hara was.
Yeah, councillor.
What do I do?
You seconded it.
Oh, yeah.
You did second it.
Yeah.
Proudly. Number 3, and just to repeat, the office will be open. Council receives and notes the reports
As amended.
as amended, perhaps is the important part here. So on Friday, the 8th, the office will stay open on that date regardless.
Through you, Mayor, if we had not missed that bit, it probably wouldn't even be in there, that first line of the table, because it's not relevant.
So through you, Mayor, that means Meningie, Taylor and Tinty, all three offices? Or just Taylor?
Through you, Tinty's not open on Fridays,
Oh, it says
Yeah.
that yet, sorry.
and we will make arrangements for Meningie.
Okay.
So for clarity, we'll be using this building now for the Christmas function
This year,
for this year.
well, the
use
information
it.
from the ombudsman needs probably more clarity. I'm not saying it's unclarified now, but we'll need to review it, but given the short time frame, this is seen to be the prudent method.
I would hope that we see some change, Mr Mayor, in that it does affect how that may be then shared around the communities.
Absolutely.
I think that's the sad
Mm.
part of this. Everyone gets to move around.
Agreed.
Be that as it may,
Councillors still invited to.
and councillors, I would remind you, you actually are invited to this, so it'd be nice if you could come along, please. Okay, it's as amended there, the recommendation. Is there someone prepared to move that way? Councillor Maidman is the mover and Qualman is the seconder. You want to speak, councillor? No?
No, that's pretty clear.
Yep.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 4, sorry, I did skip one. How to do that? The response to the Greater Adelaide Regional Plan discussion paper. You can see a recommendation. Councillor
Move that one.
Roundtree is moving.
I'll second.
And Councillor Arthur is the seconder. You want to speak, councillor Roundtree, to it?
No, I think it's We've had a good discussion about it today. It's been very interesting and the report sums up what we've been talking about.
So, councillor Arthur,
I'd like to be around 30 years and see how.
how it worked out. Yes, so the recommendation is that council approves the
Yeah.
submission
Good document.
of the response to the Greater Adelaide Regional Plan discussion paper. Everyone's clear on that?
Yep.
Anyone else wish to speak for or against? Councillor Qualman?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm concur with the other councillors completely, and I wish to say my thanks and gratitude to the well-prepared discussion paper and about to be submitted, and especially what's going to hopefully happen in 30 years. Yes, thank you.
Right, know yourself.
No, not at all.
Okay. Right, that being that the case, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 6. Five. Yeah, sorry, 5. The proposed disposal of surplus assets being the Tail and Bend train carriages, which are across from the railway station at Tail and Bend. There is a recommendation. Does someone want to move that, or someone just want to have a run through that again first?
Can we have
Probably
a
the
discussion about this?
Thank you, councillor Arthur, but I'm going to just let perhaps the CEO exactly explain this process. Councillor
I might have
Arthur
to
will
look
be
to Miles as well, through you, Mayor.
or whoever which of you wants to do it.
So it's pretty much as written. We went out first of all to see, to get comments about the trains, and and those comments are all replicated in the report. Now this is actually to invite expressions of interest for the either purchase or whatever people want to put in terms of how they might acquire one of these trains. And we've had, I won't say significant, but we certainly had interest in it from close and far, really. There is one train carriage where a resident of Tail and Bend has contacted me and said that they own that carriage. They have no proof of ownership, but council has no proof of ownership either of the actual carriages. They're lost in the somewhere of time. So I have invited him to write to say that he wishes to take repossession of that carriage. I think there would be enough information from across the district to actually confirm that that is correct. I have no reason to doubt his story. But he knows the ball's back in his court to come back to council and say he wishes to remove it. And then what we want to do is, once the expressions of interest have been forwarded to council, we will then collate them and bring them back to you as to what would be the next steps, depending on the number and the type of expressions of interest. There is, and Miles might want to add to this, but there is many comments that the train should just be donated to Old Tailem Town, and that may be a desire of council, bearing in mind that Old Tailem Town is a commercial entity. If it was a not-for-profit, that would be quite an easy thing for us to recommend to you. But given they are a commercial entity, my recommendation would be that we go through the process, see what the expressions of interest bring out from the community, and then we would bring a recommendation to you if that seems to be the most sensible approach to that. But we really don't know the answer to that until we put this out to the public to say, give us your best shot. What do you think you might want to do with it?
Miles.
Through you, your worship, I may just change the terminology a little bit. It'll be going out to tender. So in the tender, we would specify very clearly some requirements, so it won't be open to anyone. I mean, there'll be critical elements that any party that wishes to be a successful tenderer will have to have the ability to remove them intact and to obtain the license and the permit through ARTC, working alongside a live rail corridor, will require them to have the appropriate access to skills and qualifications to do that. And also removing these, the bulk of, like there's 6 of them, that they will need a crane. So this isn't a job for the faint-hearted, and hence the tender actually creates a situation where you weed out the ones that would be non-compliant. However, one of those carriages, the one that's more likely to be restored, the seventh one, can be handled without a crane and can be moved on a tilt trailer. All the others will need quite significant crane to move it and significant transport to take them away. With the one that's restorable, nice to see that we've had through Renmark Baringa Council an approach. I actually had the mayor ring me and just talk to me initially, and then I had one of the groups that are interested in restoring it to express their interest, which then was backed up with the Tailem Bend Historians Group saying even though they're not interested in it, that is a goal that they would like to see. So that's where we're at, but I will say very clearly, it's a tender process that we would do next.
And through you, Mayor, I suppose it'd be true to say, Miles, that we would like some coordination with that, because with ARTC, they probably want all of the trains removed at the same time, just from an efficiency point of view.
Councillor Roundtree, you got a question?
2 questions. First one is, could I request, and seeing there's been a lot of expression in here about people wanting it to go to Old Tailem Town, that because the person that runs Old Tailem Town is quite old and has said it has been said about him that he doesn't want the media, can we just send a letter to him if he hasn't already got one?
Through you, Mayor, we have had contact with,
Oh, you have?
originally we had,
Okay,
the Mayor and I visited probably 18 months ago now
all right.
and talked about that option. He has since also rung, and I know Miles at some
Okay.
point has also spoken to him, so he's very aware of what's happening.
Brilliant. That covers that
Second
one.
question.
And my second question was, if through the tender process, people realise it's horribly bigger than Ben Hur to achieve this, and we don't end up getting rid of one or all of them, what's our fallback position in that case? Scrap metal? Oh,
Then I'm coming to council and saying, if you want this removed,
Will do.
either we go back out and have another go at a tender with what we've got left. Even the scrap metal, it's going to cost us a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it really, we're coming back to council and saying, look, we've got rid of X through a tender process, but there's one remaining or so, and this is what it'll cost to remove it, and that'll be.
Okay, thank you.
I might just add, number 11 in the people that have responded notes right at the bottom of page 24 on my agenda. And this is in relation to what is referred to as the accident train. And I've talked to Councillor Coleman about this being an old train driver. That it says there was demolished. Also, when the Tailem Bend Roundhouse was demolished, part of the agreement was for the council to receive some timber, make a display to remember the structure. This is stored on one of the flat wagons. Hopefully, this Friday, the CEO, me at least, and Councillor, you might want to join us, we'll go through perhaps that particular wagon and some others and see what items perhaps are more valuable in our museum or somewhere else, but now that clears up to me what those bits of wood were from. They weren't from the Roundhouse, so we would probably take them off that wagon because they'd have a lovely big long park seat or something for us somewhere. So just as long as people are aware of that. So this will go out to a pretty wide ranging and perhaps plenty of time open tender, because there's plenty of people interested in this history, and just a matter of giving everyone an opportunity. I'm looking for Councillor Arthur, you're happy still to move the recommendation as it is? 3 points. Thank you. Councillor Roundtree, you are seconder. You want to speak to it, Councillor Arthur?
No.
Very comprehensive report, and we've done the groundwork before.
Yeah. Anyone else wishes to speak? Councillor Coleman?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for bringing up regarding some, what we could say, relics or the upright posts from the old roundhouse, which are on a wagon, which is called the actual match wagon, is the technical name of it.
Big matches.
Match, yes. It's interesting to know that when they were moved up there, they come up on the dual gauge railway line, which was standard and broad, and they had Mr. McGuinness, Tony McGuinness's father, come and operate a 50-ton crane, and we're so fortunate we got some. The council done a bit of a deal when he helped us out and done a good rate for us. And I have photos somewhere, and I must dig up, but we didn't have that implication with ARTC, but mainly because that was our yard. But it could be all different now, so that puts a bit of an encompass on. And I'm glad you brought that up, Miles. That the tender, when he's successful, we'll have to take that on board at least various conditions to adhere by. And yes, thanks for putting a good report back out, mainly to the community, because some people are probably a little bit sensitive about it. Some people are tired of it. It's unfortunately something that we've just run out of steam, excuse the expression. And, you know, volunteer wise, and it's just come to this, but I think the way we're going is the best option. So I'll be voting for it.
Thank you, councillor. I might just acknowledge this point. I think it was used as part of a work skill program at some stage, and
Yes,
for some people, this is a very sensitive subject. So we acknowledge that.
yes.
Be that as it may, at some stage, we need to deal with it.
Hmm.
Anyone else? There's being none, you close, councillor.
Close.
The motion is as it is in the recommendation. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that means that one's carried unanimously. Thank you. Number 6, animal management plan. There's a motion. There's someone got any questions? Councillor Bland, you'll move it.
Move it as is.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Peach is the seconder. Any questions before we any further? Very good.
Just one question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
The actual toilet blocks there. are not-
hang on, we're
they are
numbers,
council's toilet blocks at
numbers,
present?
number 6, we're on animal management.
Oh, sorry, I jumped in.
I wasn't sure whether, I could see where you were going, councillor.
Sorry.
I don't think it was the dog and cat management, that's
Don't
why.
have toilets for them.
Another day.
Never know,
Do this.
Well, there's animal management.
maybe. Anyone else got a question? This agenda item? There being none, councillor Bland, you want to close, open and close at the same time, perhaps?
Pretty much. Closed.
Thank you. So number 6, the council adopts the animal management plan 2024 to 2029. All those in favour, please. Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 7. Intention to grant a lease to of the Canalpin Oval to Border Downs Football Club Incorporated. And that is that we enter into a 21-year lease with the Border Downs Football Club over the portion of land identified in the Canalpin Oval in the plan here, and we authorise the mayor and the CEO to execute the lease. Now, I just need to mention, to be clear, this around the playground, don't we?
It's excluded.
So councillors, the playground is excluded near the netball tennis course near the front gate, as has been our practice for all ovals. And also there's a section of land near the swimming pool, I understand, that we will
It was-
retain. Yeah,
My understanding is it's included within the lease, but the maintenance of the playground remains council's.
There you go.
responsibility.
Yeah.
as long as we understand, we're still carrying that risk. You moving, councillor Roundtree?
Yes, I'll move that.
Councillor O'Hara, you moving, seconding? Yeah, very kind, thank you. Is there anyone else? As you know, councillors, we're moving piece by piece through all our leases.
Listen,
Yes,
Mr. Mayor, regarding
Around
the
this
toilet
one.
block there at the present moment,
yes.
that is council's at the present moment. That is the council toilet block that was put there
Well,
many years ago, and it services the playground. So you're now asking
I
the
think you're talking around
sporting body to take over.
the original canteen come to toilet block with the
Yeah, toilet
umpires
block,
change, I
yeah,
think, between the present club rooms and the netball courts.
Yeah, so I don't know, is that the councils or not council?
Well, this is the grey area we're dealing with constantly, and these are becoming the lessee's problem.
As I-
Responsibility. We would note this, by the way, that this doesn't preclude each of our oval committees from coming to us and asking for a grant to improve it, or working through the grants process.
And we've worked very closely with this club.
And so we've worked with them closely to get it to a suitable stage for this process.
Through you, Mayor, is a toilet in its current form fit for purpose for the job?
It is.
It is, so
due to
that
where
they
she-
don't have to do any
it-
work.
It is a compliant toilet. It may not meet everyone's amenity viewpoints of what a toilet should look like, but it is a compliant toilet. Clean and tidy,
Okay.
functions well. I think the only thing I saw in the photos was, the steel urinal looking a bit rusty. So again, as the mayor said, certainly an application to council for a grant could, improve the amenity somewhat, but there's nothing functionally, wrong with the toilet.
So through you, Mayor, the council couldn't fix the urinal prior to doing this. It has to be done through a grant.
It's functional now.
It's functional.
Right, okay.
Councillors, I haven't broadly discussed this with you, but at some point we need to be quite clear about our role with what I may refer to, and it's no different whether it be Menangie or Tailem Bend or Tintinara or Peak, I might add, what I call game day toilets. Because they don't.
What does that refer to, Mayor?
Well, they're not actually necessarily open to the public's my point.
That one is though, isn't it?
I don't know.
I think it is. It shows up on toilet maps.
Well, I don't know if that doesn't mean it hasn't got the gate shut. My point would be that the process we've been under for a while now is that those particular toilets go with the lease in
Okay.
each case. Councillor O'Hara.
Can I just ask, are these leases to the football clubs, are they a commercial lease? They're
No,
not?
$1 peppercorn on
Peppercorn.
demand.
Oh, okay.
Might just repeat that point about, once again, as you know, we've offered some money to each of our ovals and et cetera and sporting clubs. They could use that for this process. Doesn't stop them coming back through the annual grant process or any other grant process around improving what is, while it's on their lease, a community facility. I might just say that as far as I know now, only one sporting club in this council area has got a community loan or a building loan with us. All the other loans, even during COVID, were repaid. It's actually the community's in good shape in that respect. But we're well aware that what I refer to as game day toilets probably all need some improvement, but we feel that at this stage, this is the direction we'll go. Okay.
Go.
Councillor Maidman, yes.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. I have one question. Does the Border Downs Football Club Incorporated actually exist,
Yes.
given that it's merged with Coorong Cat? So how does that work for anybody that may be listening and may not understand it?
One of the greater challenges of this district is we've got 2.5 football netball clubs and 5 grounds. But as far as I know, I'm looking at Councillor O'Hara in particular, each of the parts of the Coorong Cats, or for that matter, the Mallee Storm, have their own sort of grounds committee. And then they have effectively a football netball committee.
I can probably explain it. There's the 3 football clubs, Border Downs, Tintinara and Menangie. They're separate entities, there's 3 of them. They play as the Cats.
Right.
But they're
Okay.
individual football clubs. Combined, they play as the Cats.
I thought there
Well,
might be
that-
some community
That model came out of,
misunderstanding, and I
yeah,
thought that needed
that model
clarity.
came out of when Border Downs and Tintinara amalgamated this back in, remember it,
30 years ago.
25, 30 years ago.
One in
So-
90, wasn't it?
So it allows local ownership of the grounds and control, but from the actual game day teams, they're from a bigger identity.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else questions, speaking? Yeah, certainly.
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, well, then in that case, I wonder whether 21 years may be too long. Maybe if we made it 15.
Through your worship, 21 is our standard.
Standard.
I know it's standard, but I know the golf club here was 15 years, wasn't 21. And I wonder, given the grey area with amalgamations.
We did that last meeting, councillor. I'm
I
sure. it was
reckon that was 15, but I could be wrong. I'll take that on board, but
Through your worship, it doesn't stop any group coming back and
Relinquish.
relinquished.
negotiating.
okay,
change.
if things were to change in
The only
future.
situation I'd recommend a shorter lease if it's clear that council might want to do something with that land in the future.
All right,
We moved back to 21 plus 21's quite a year or so ago to
Right.
give clubs some tenure in terms of wanting to improve.
5+5.
Yeah, it was used to be 5+5, yes. Okay, anyone else? Councillor Roundtree, you'll close. Question's got 2 parts. Councillors, I put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 8. There is a recommendation that council adopts a revised curbside waste, recycling and green organics collection service policy as amended. I trust you read every part of that report, councillors.
Move that way, Mr.
Thank you, councillor Arthur. You'll move that way. It is
Bedside reading.
there was the way I read it, it was just some
Bed to sleep.
tidying up as requested by councillors on some terminology in the main. Is there a second to that? Councillor Maiden, thank you. there any discussion around that report? Life's easy. Councillor, you'll close.
I'll close the vote. Thank
I'll
you.
put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Number 9, and you note I've declared on this a development assessment fee waiver and refund policy. There's a recommendation there, councillors. Do you want to start with that or we want to just have an explanation?
Explanation.
Explanation.
There you go, Miles. We have an explanation, please. I
Thank
think.
you,
I think
Worship.
Campbell, anyway.
Oh, you,
Oh,
that's fine.
As I've said in the report, the introduction of the Planning Development Infrastructure Act did change the council relationship with the delivery of planning approvals and planning consent. And in that, it wasn't a perfect piece of legislation. So especially in terms of delegation. So we have a situation where the Act delegates to the CEO for functions that are related to council, which are primarily the building functions. It allows then for the CEO to establish a council assessment panel and also to ensure that council has an assessment manager, who is me in that case. However, I get my delegation from the council assessment panel, not from the CEO. And the Act creates these complications whereby there's delegations that I have the power for, but the funding of that activity is actually from council. So despite the fact that, you know, council has become more divorced from the decision making, council pays for the administration of the Act. And to complicate it even more, the fees are paid through the portal directly to the state government, and the state government then distribute the portion of those fees that are that apply to council. So as in the past, it used to be the case that a council could waive fees or refund a portion of fees and then send the balance through to the state government. Can't do that now. If we want to waive or refund fees, we have to do it through the portal. And essentially, we're then sending less money into the state government. Also receiving less money, receiving less money from the state government. Unfortunately, it's these types of things that were left somewhat complicated. Now, the breakdown is that in order to do that, we have to have some consistency, we have to have a policy. That policy is a council policy because essentially that's council money, income that is being affected. However, it is then the power of the assessment manager through the CAP that then delivers this policy and makes those decisions about waiving and refunding. And our issue today, it hasn't been it hasn't been like a weekly issue, but we'd have 4 or 5 times a year where we'd have someone asking for a refund of fees of a development application that's been withdrawn halfway through the process. And we also have had community groups that might be building let's say a new shed, and they haven't thought in their fundraising about the costs of a development application, and that can be a few $1,000s. And then they will have a grant, and that grant will say, well, you need to build within a certain time, and then they'll be looking to see if there's ability for the waiving of fees. And it's important to have the policy that then makes that clear, not only to the community groups, how that will be applied and the rules around that, but also then for me as a decision maker, to be able to be sure then that I'm applying that fairly and consistently across the district. As I've said in the report, the quantum is, if I applied this to community groups. We're looking at $4,000 on an average year. That is around about 4% of income. And we're talking about small scale, so it'd be a value of $100,000 or less development. So if a community group, we will encourage community groups all the same to go and in their fundraising to look at the development costs and fees. And certainly if someone was building something significant, the chances are this policy wouldn't apply to it. If it's something like a big stadium or like that'll be, $3 million project, this wouldn't apply for that. We'd be expecting them to get, grants that would cover those types of costs.
Councillor Roundtree.
So having a look at the policy, just a couple of things that stand out to me is number 4, where it says circumstances in which fees will be waived or refunded. Development application fees will be waived and or refunded. Should that say may? Or is it, because it goes on to talk about the criteria that you would follow. So in my view, I sort of read that should be maybe waived, etc.
When
And-
it comes to,
Yep.
well, the waiving of fees is similar in sense to what we do with the hall. So the waiving of fees would be for community groups. And essentially we don't, with a hall, those fees are waived. So there's no.
So there's
may
no
about it.
subjectivity to it if they meet
No,
that
and I
criteria.
don't
Okay,
want
well then it should
subjectivity.
stay. Yep, okay.
And in terms of the other part of this is refunding fees,
Yeah.
which could apply to anyone where they're not completing their development. That happens on a reasonably regular basis. Someone might, put a development application in and they actually sell the property before maybe they've completed their building application side of things, and they might be looking for, partial refund. And I think that's a very fair thing to do.
Thank you. The second part then under, and I'll use building assessment fee as an example, second dot point. And it says where assessment is substantially complete. I'm wondering whether it's helpful to you to have something, because what would substantially mean to someone? It's sort of subjective. Are there processes that you go through that you could say at this line, it means this, and at this line, it means that, and that could be.
The principles there are that because that's a direct cost to council, and in this case, a building assessment is outsourced, so it's direct cost to council. The principle is that what has been spent, we would not refund.
Right, okay.
So I'm quite comfortable if I apply that principle, that can be clearly demonstrated.
Yeah, I guess without that explanation where it says substantially, the word substantially is subjective. People go, what does substantially mean? It's not substantially done. But if you've got a line in the sand that you would
I
work
have,
to,
and at the end of the day, it's my decision.
okay, fair enough.
Councillor Arthur.
Yeah, just one question. Miles, in drafting the development assessment fee waiver policy, you said here, fees community organisations, you said it, those relate to an application where development costs are under $100,000. $100,000 doesn't go very far nowadays. So we're talking about $100,000 of the project. So,
$100,000 for development costs.
so other than that, they will still be subject to the fee.
Yes, they would be. And the rationale there is that,
I'm talking non-for-profits. Yeah.
yeah, and the rationale there, so if it's over $100,000, the rationale there is that it costs us to process that application. And also in that situation as well, anyone with a development that is substantial, if they're a non-profit, we will be encouraging them to raise the money for their costs for the development application. Plus also what we find on a regular basis is that they also, if they haven't factored in their application costs, maybe they haven't factored in other costs such as their engineers costs or that. So
No, that's all. Just want to know that.
and I think that's what we're doing with this policy as well, is be able to have those early conversations through people like Tammy with these groups to say, look, great project. Can you make sure you think about these other costs involved? But this is available also for, those non-profit groups that might be fundraising and don't necessarily have large grants to fall back on.
It's just that, you know, for example, a lighting system around an oval, you know, a new lights like Peak have put in for a new light, that's probably $160,000.
And I
So that
might-
would be subject to these fees.
through the issue, I might just say though, with something like that, and there's early warning. So this is about waiving development application fees.
Yep.
In that situation where there's early warning and they're aware of that, there's nothing to stop them coming to council and saying, for my project, are you able to help me out? And talking about more costs, but when it's actually, when the, you know, application's being lodged and we're having to work on that, and again, we may have to, with the bigger projects, we may have to pay for outsourced service as well, like the, you know, the building inspectors or even a building surveyor. So a building surveyor, you know, can cost us, you know, on the average development, it can cost us, you know, $4,000 or $5,000.
No, that's fine. No problem. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, I haven't got a mover or a seconder yet, so councillor Roundtree's moving.
Yes, sorry.
Councillor
yes.
Qualman is the seconder. You want to speak, councillor Roundtree?
No, that have my questions on.
Any other councillors, the seconder, anyone else wish to speak? Easy.
Closed.
Okay, the recommendation is that council adopt the development assessment fee waiver and refund policy. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 10. Just the minutes of the Canalpin Pool and Caravan Park, councillor
Mayor,
Peach.
if I can move with a variation, please. The motion I'd like to move is that as written and that council notes the recommendation from the committee for office bearers for the coming season and accepts the recommendation.
And I'm happy to second that.
Just looking at the wording. The original recommendation in the agenda is fine with an addition, is that what you're
With an
saying?
addition that specifies that we have seen their recommendations regarding their committee members and those office bearers, and that we approve of.
Through you, Mayor. The only question I would have is, are you considering your discussion today around section 41 committees and how they're structured? And would there be any need to change?
If there is a need to change, then I think we can do that at that point in time. They're already operating under a terms of reference that gives them the ability to do what they've done. And I think it would, as part of our engagement with them, warrant us noting that they're stepping in the right direction and that we do approve of those committee members for this year.
In addition, that we note we note their proposed list of office bearers and accept.
Yes,
Note and accept.
note and accept the office bearers for the coming season. I can accept the recommendation.
And I'm
Because I
happy.
think they have actually put that in a motion that this proposed list of office bearers be put to us for ratification.
Mhm.
Is what you see on the screen acceptable? Okay, yep, you happy?
Yep.
Anyone wish to add to that? Change it? Question, yes.
And that is in relation to those present. If I'm reading that right, there's possibly 3 staff members present. I'm assuming they're not all voting, therefore probably should be in there as in attendance. It could be quite confusing.
For you, Mayor, Councillor Bland, this morning you missed the
Yes, I did.
conversation around the briefing of section 41 committees, which will have a, won't say impact, but will start to move the section 41 committee at Canalpin into a framework that reflects how the local government wanted. So it will be what they're doing now is fine, but they're expecting us to come back at some point and change or enhance the process around section 41. So I don't think that would be an issue. And councillors who were involved this morning in the process, I don't think that's an issue about the staff members being there.
I don't think
Sorry,
it's the
through-
staff members being there. Sorry, my question is about the clarity around whether they're voting members. And they wouldn't be. There should be in attendance, I would have thought.
That's probably through you, Mayor, that's probably something that the secretary needed to
Yeah.
be advised of when she was putting it together. And you're right, they should just be noted as, because I don't get a vote either, and we should be put in there. I do, do I?
You do.
I do, okay. But they should be listed as attendees, not present at the meeting.
So we can't change their minutes.
No, we
No,
can't,
I'm
but
just-
in future, we can direct them
Clarification.
to do it properly.
Councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My apologies if I'm going to complicate things here, but I see in the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the councilman pool, 6.7, it says recommendation to council. Rail small pool and rah. Now, 6.7 of the ordinary meeting and recommend to council. How come that's not in the recommendation or,
Picked up in the CRM process, councillor.
yeah, well, it says recommendation to council in bold letters.
Yeah, so we're gently moving to some different understandings about how we
Yeah,
get
well,
results.
Doesn't say any CRM or anything on here.
But if we
I
go to
would
a
have thought it would have
CRM
been in it.
report later in the agenda, I think
So-
you'll find they're in there,
So
councillor.
through you, Mayor, this should be picked up in the minute action list for section 41s at this particular point. Is that correct?
Oh, they'll be picked up somewhere, if not twice.
But it should, we have a to-do list for a section 41 committee.
I think, I've been told it has been.
On page, through you, Mayor, on top of page 36, the committee made one recommendation regarding consideration of a rail to be installed in the small pool. This has been added to the section 41 register
Oh, perfect.
assessment reporting.
As long as it gets picked up somewhere.
Okay. Councillor Peach will close very soon.
Happy to close, Mr Mayor.
Okay, motion, who's got that little addition into it, councillors? Put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Roundtree was the seconder. It's carried unanimously. 11.1, councillors, Office of the Chief Executive Officer's Information Report. Can someone move that recommendation, please? Councillor Peach and Councillor Roundtree, the mover and seconder of the previous motion.
Mm.
Who's moving this one? Councillor O'Hara, thank you. Seconder will be, I'm looking around the room. Councillor May, but thank you. Joe, would I do that? You often. Be prudent for me to ask any questions? In that report, Councillor O'Hara.
I just got one on the CWMS pump chain renewal program.
Mhm.
The land down at Memorial Park at Mingy where we're going to do it up for the croquet ladies and gentlemen. This one drove across there on a real wet day. And they've got wheel tracks in that park.
Make the croquet challenging, you're telling me?
Sorry?
To make the croquet very challenging or very easy?
Will
one of
make
the
it
two.
very challenging, but it's also cost us a lot of money to fix.
Probably
I think they should be told.
so to the CEO and
Through you,
acting director.
we will take that on notice and I'm sure staff are already aware of it and have something in place because they've been working down there extensively on the croquet thing.
Very extensively by the sound of it, if they've done that. Which just shows how important it is to get the alternative access we want to that particular sewage pump, isn't it? Councillor Roundtree,
So in income in the financials, under operating grants,
went.
the budget says we'll get about 5 million in operating grants. We've got 600,000 or 596. Is that because there's grants coming in for the
That's
rest
a
of this
good point.
financial year? So when is our month we normally expect to get, because it's a fair bit outstanding.
So through you, Mayor, it changes quite dramatically. Remember, the fags were paid prior to the 30th of June this year. So sometimes there's a little bit of that slides in. The SLRP funding has just come through, but wasn't in time for this report. So that's a point in time.
It's not a concern. It's not, we're still on track to receive that.
through you, the bulk of that is the FAGS funding and the SLURP, and both of them have been received. We would work on the assumption that if the FAG was paid last year early, it'll be paid early again this year sometime in June.
All right.
I might just add, it is now publicly been announced that the SLURP, Special Local Roads funding, has been approved. Minister sent out something out 2 or 3 days ago. We received $1 million for Carcoma and 467,000 councillors for the finishing of the Poltallic rebuild. I think we probably were the council received the most in the state. Nearly. 21 councils of the 68 received some funding. Okay, other questions in this report? Okay, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? Against, that's carried unanimously. Second one, the Community and Corporate Information Report. I'll move that way, please. Rashmi. Councillor Qualman, thank you. Councillor Arthur, is there any questions?
I've got one, Mr. Mayor, and I'll find it. It's the patrol grading seems to be getting less and less every month.
We're in the Corporate and Community, Councillor Still. Corporate. I doubt that'll be in that report.
Oh, I'm getting ahead of you all the time.
Yeah, I know you're ahead of us today. Yeah.
All right.
Councillor Roundtree.
Any progress on the Canalpin Hall sign?
Oh,
That's coming up later. I
Oh,
think. This at the end.
Through you, Mayor, we have a set of templates with appropriate colours. It should be imminent.
Imminent, that's good. And is this following on, so you were saying earlier that perhaps we've now got that report on the streetscape, is that has come in?
The streetscape report has come in as well.
And so the colours for this sign, is that all in line
Probably
with
not to
that?
the extent we wanted to. We have done something on the side as well.
Okay,
Councillor Peach.
Just a note of thanks, section 41 community action list. The oleander bushes been removed next to the town hall in Tintinara. There's some very positive feedback from that on referendum day on Saturday from residents seeing it. I just would note something that could be worth following up is that the ground hasn't quite perhaps been cleared as well as it could have been with what's left there, but it's certainly a big improvement.
Oh, anyone else? Okay. I'm going to put the motion. The council receive and note the report. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Number 3, the roads and infrastructure. Infrastructure and assets. And we read this information report. It's a recommendation there. Councillor, someone move that way, please. Councillor Qualman. For a seconder. Councillor O'Hara. Councillor Arthur, you were asking about patrol grading hours or kilometres or whatever.
Yes,
I think it would be only fair we take this on notice, given the acting director has been with us for about 24
I
hours.
was going to ask if we could have a report on
On a
probably the
report.
last 6 months, because we have, and you know, what graders have actually been working, what have not been working because of they do not have staff to drive them, or on holidays, sick or off. Because, you know, like the average should be around about 400 Ks. And, you know, we're down to 272. So, you know, like there's got to be an explanation there somewhere. And that's, I'm asking because the people who go past a grader that sits there, you know, 3 days a week is asking a question.
I don't know if it'll help you, councillor. I accept, we'll give that as a sort of a question on notice to the director, acting director, but also, as I understand, this Saturday at the Canalpin show, we'll have the newest grader we've got for you to admire or the kids to play on or whatever. I think that's correct from what I'm hearing around the traps.
so through you, Mayor, with some of the delay and work not being done, could that be weather related?
I think I'm going to answer the question straight up. There'd be no particular secret. Keeping enough people in the business at all levels is difficult.
Okay,
And, you know, we'll endeavour to fix that problem or improve it. We've probably spent over the last 3 or 4 years a considerable amount of energy renewing the fleet. making sure it's fit for purpose. I would say we're nearly there, I'll speak, yeah, but this is an ongoing management issue to keep on top of. I wouldn't say it's been too wet.
Okay, I was just thought I'd ask the question.
No, no.
I don't know anything about roads, but
No.
have heard it mentioned.
No, but it's a challenge, for sure.
Okay.
Okay, that the council, other questions in this area? Sorry, councillor Maidman?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and through you, on page 82, waste transfer station green waste. What's done with the green waste once it's been grounded or grinded, whichever correct English
You're
is?
asking.
It's terrible English, but is it utilised around the
You
No.
see, yeah,
No?
No, we're not allowed to because it hasn't been appropriately, I'll say the word fumigated.
Okay.
From weeds and things like that.
Yep.
But no, we can't use it for compost, and I'll take it on notice, but my understanding is that will find its way to Brinkley in some way at some point. But we will confirm that.
historically, up until recent time, councillor has been brought to, or most of it at Tailem Bend and put over what was the last of our dump sites. I think we're nearly completed that
That's done.
requirement of the EPA.
Okay.
And, looking forward, that gives us an opportunity to consider our green waste service and whether we look at food and organics in that process. But up till now, we haven't, because we've kept it back to deal with it, cover that site. So your question's valid. Today we're short of people that have got the answer.
More?
Yep, no,
Pages 87 and 88, I'll call it Bakery Corner. Everybody knows what that is, Railway Terrace. I really love the photos. They're very descriptive. You can see what's going on there. And unfortunately, we haven't had a decent thunderstorm to test it out, but it's going to be very nice that we won't have flooding. And the general consensus is that it's a job well done on council's behalf. I think that's important to note. Is it completed? Said in the report it was due to be. So it is actually completed.
It is, and I drove over it the other day, councillors, and there's no bump or lump or anything.
Yeah, it looked good. Looks really good. And while we're still on that kind of subject, page 91 to 93, the Ampol Service Road. Once again, the photos are fantastic and it gives a really good understanding of the scale of work that's been done out there. The Ampol staff are very happy with the way it's going and are looking forward to less dusting in there.
so thank you. And there's 2 points, councillor, you make, is that the pictures in the reports are excellent. They
They
show
are
it.
excellent.
And you know, these 4 or 5 projects around Tailem Bend that have basically been done from last year's funding, and we should be proud that we're doing the Ampol one and not reticent that we had to do it because it's an entry or exit statement from our district, and
Yeah.
it's a credit to the job. I think there's going to put some lines on it now and a few minor attachments, and I can tell you one of the photos there with the contractor digging up the road. I had a yarn to him and I said, how hard it is under there? He said, hard, very hard being Tailem Bend. So yeah, but the report with photos makes a lot of difference
Yeah.
to not only our understanding, but the ratepayers and whoever chooses to read this agenda in the record in the future.
Yeah.
Councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, excellent photos on the couple of works that have happened. Stormwater, Railway Terrace, the work at Ampol, and also at last Greenwich Road's been done, Mr. Mayor, and
I feel like
virtually
there should be
finished.
fireworks going off at this point.
And the local residents, shall I say, are very happy. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it was awaiting the special material that went in it, and then all of a sudden it happened. Councillor Maidman again.
Yes, just to continue on from the Ampol, is it actually completed?
So
Still
you
got a little way to go.
Line marking. is that right?
True. Line marking to be completed.
Okay.
So
Oh,
on-
and
Go on.
sorry, one more quick one. The rubble that's up near the end, are we responsible for that? The rubble that's come out, it's right near where the hay shed is.
I'll have to take that on notice.
Okay.
got some
There's just
cones around
piles
it,
of it
hasn't
there
it?
and there's been a query.
Maybe an
Me.
arrangement between the owner of the land and the contractor, who knows?
Yep.
Councillor Roundtree.
Will there be a crossing, a more designated crossing for truck drivers to walk across the Dukes to that station? Is that in the proposal?
It's an
at
issue
all?
that the CEO has followed up to
Yep.
make an enhanced version of what is pretty basic at the moment.
Yeah,
So I think that timber frame doesn't
Perfect.
No, it doesn't.
And yesterday, when I was in Narra Court, the roads maintenance manager for DIT was there, and I've said I'm going to send him a photo. Could he please upgrade it to a suitable
Yeah.
safety? And I've also asked, could he maybe do some prettying up on the other side where the trucks park?
I think it's a good idea. A number of times you see truck drivers crossing, they don't always wear their high vis and they're hard to see and they cross. So if they had a dedicated, that would be really handy.
I'm not sure if the road will be marked, but we can have those safety things with the steel
Yeah,
barriers
at
rather
least you
than
can
a.
see them because they're normally reflective. You know,
Councillor O'Hara's got that look in his eye.
Across the road there a few times.
Yeah, I know you're not the only one.
Oh, yeah.
and you're still here.
Okay. Any other questions in that report? Councillor Bland, sorry.
Just a minor one really, and that is my knowledge, and the backboard installed at the Tintinara Oval Basketball Court. I have to admit that I didn't realise that we, after a basketball court at Tintinara.
Live and learn, don't you?
Hmm. You do?
Yeah, I think we do, up near the toilets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
half court,
I don't doubt it. I'm just,
yeah, there's a half court.
it's a half court one.
Yeah, and the oval
Yeah, all good.
situation.
Okay, councillors, I think
Done it for years.
enough of that. If you've had enough. Here's a motion just to receive and note the report. Put the motion. All those in favour? Against, that's carried unanimously. We move on to questions with notice. Councillor Arthur has two. First one there is an answer. Councillor?
Yes, would like a supplementary answer, question to
We can
that.
have a supplementary question.
Yep, question, sorry, yeah. As we pay a lease for that particular bit of Crown land, which the treatment plant is standing on of $5,683 off the top of my head, an annual lease. Would it be more sensible for us to look at removing the tanks and the fence there and putting that little bit of land, which was very, very valuable land, obviously, back into the system?
Can we just take that on notice, councillor? That does seem like a large amount of money for. I know Tintinara is good country, but didn't think it's quite that good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a commercial
We
enterprise.
we
That's
move to
what
your
classified.
second question. You see the answer there.
Yep.
We're still awaiting the final
So
costs,
it hasn't been done, not a problem.
and obviously it ties back.
I was just verifying that because it was inferred before that we had a costing for it.
No, well, we had agreed to do it. You'll see that, and Councillor O'Hara alluded to the electrical, not the electrical supply, but the improvement to the pump station. So that pump station's location's given us a fair bit of worry over time, and we might finally get there, I think. You're happy with your two answers? Questions without notice, councillors? Councillor Bland first.
My first question really is around the storms that we have had consistently across the district this season. And that is the loss of significant trees now in, I'm going to speak in relation to Menengi, and there's don't doubt elsewhere. But from the northern end of Lions Park to the Sailing Club, we have now, our staff have spent a significant amount of time cutting up fallen branches. However, that now leaves that walking path not only without many trees for shade, and these are significantly old trees, but also the potential erosion problems. So I'm just wondering where we're at. We didn't get a budget last year with the trees that we lost through the drought.
Through you, Mayor, we are very aware of that issue, councillor. I think as you've discussed with me previously, there has been no budget for new trees, but we have been looking with the LAP staff to see if there's an opportunity for a source of trees to replenish them. I can bring back, I'll take the question on notice and bring back a more fulsome answer, but we're very aware of it, and we're looking at ways to replenish those trees.
If I make a follow-up comment, Mr. Mayor, and that is that if you look closely, and that somebody looked closely at the other trees that are there now, many of them are in now poor condition following the winds. There are branches in needing an arborist or someone to have a look at.
So through you, Mayor, we did have an arborist do
Years
some,
ago,
but
yeah.
No, this is since the blows.
Yeah, yeah.
the storms will necessitate some further action in that area.
Thank you.
Councillor Wallman, I think you had your arm up. Go
Yes,
ahead,
thank you, Mr. Mayor. And with the respect to the new Director of Roads and Infrastructure, just on board, I was still going to ask the question. Hope it's okay. Regarding Rogers Park, Tarlin Bend, the lawn area, unfortunately, probably 20% of it is just bare eroded dirt, which doesn't seem to be failing and receiving the submersible irrigation system doesn't seem to be reaching, or it's in heavy competition with the trees. I just wonder, because I've been receiving a few complaints and concerns on residents regarding our nice park, unfortunately, looks really good barring this bare earth. What's the council's action or their intentions to do to resolve to make it a lot better, the irrigation system, please?
We'll take it on notice, councillor. We'll just,
Thank you.
is that, do you know council watered by recycled water or?
Yeah,
Is
there
that
is-
part of that system in
yes,
Rogers
that's right.
Park?
Yeah, and
Multiple.
I did talk to Travis, and Travis said it does have a bit of competition with the trees, but in other places it seems to be fine up against trees. So whether the system's failed or needs upgrading or.
Miles will have a crack at it.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Waldman did have a talk to Travis as well, earlier today. And, there's nothing, that's failing with our irrigation system. Submersible pump, which takes water from the river, is functioning appropriately. And we'll just have to investigate, the irrigation on Rogers Park and if it needs improvement, we'll come back to council with that advice.
Yeah, no, Mr. Mayor, just, you got a concrete plinth running along as your divine border, and it just looks a bit odd. And then you've got a good 10 feet from here to that wall long, 15 feet long,
Yeah.
of bare dirt, and you know, it just sort of would look better. Anyway, I thought I'd ask the question. Thank you.
Councillor O'Hara, then councillor Peach, I think.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I see yesterday a big write up on Facebook that the work at the Lions Park at Meningie was going to start yesterday, but when I went down there yesterday afternoon, there was no one around. Do we know if that started today or when?
Do you, Councillor Howard, was it on our Facebook page?
Yeah, on the council Facebook page.
I will have to take that on notice. I don't know what's
Not be
going.
today.
Yep.
This afternoon anyway,
So
What, on our Facebook page or the work?
the work.
I'll just check. I'll take that on notice. I don't know the answer.
Chris, you're looking at our Facebook page all the time, councillor. I'm going to go back to councillor Peach, I think, at his arm.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I just wondered if any work is scheduled to further maintain the median strip in Tintinara at the moment. It's looking a bit overdone and growing into the curb,
Overdone.
overgrown in places, underdone.
Unless I missed something yesterday when we drove through it, it was chipped out, ready to be swept, is that?
Yes.
Okay, that I haven't seen it the last 24 hours, so that could be
Oh,
a change.
I only have to ask, Councillor.
Excellent.
similar treatment to what happened here in this town.
A little, through you, Mayor, a little bit more tricky because we can't close the half the road because of the configuration of the highway there. But staff did what they could, and then the street sweeper was coming this morning to pick up the extra dirt and stuff.
Fantastic.
Councillor Bland, I think.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to follow up on shelters in Meningie, and that is in relation to the ones at the skate park that we're working with community on. How far off are they to get started? And then I have a follow-up question about the dip toilets that we're waiting to see on Princess
Up to you,
Highway.
Mayor. Are you right? I can answer it if you want.
I'm looking at someone that know the answer.
So with the shelters, James, before he went on leave, was already working out and ordering the shelter. The last thing I saw would be about 6 weeks. So he's been in discussion with, is it Emma? Yep. So that's well on its way. And in terms of the toilets at Salt Creek, we've just signed a lease, an agreement with them. And they are still proceeding with the toilets. It will still be 6 to 12 months away because they haven't actually started that work yet. And there's still some negotiations around loan ownership, but they did yesterday reaffirm their commitment to the toilets at Salt Creek, and I was a bit concerned because they were talking about moving money from one road to another, but the toilets at Salt Creek will remain as part of that rest area.
A follow-up question, the comments I'm receiving from the community of Meningie about Princess Highway South and its work and the waste of money or repetitive work they've had to do. Was there any comment yesterday on that?
I can't comment on DITS and I don't think we
Well,
should.
I can. There are others that were very critical yesterday.
Good.
But I would, people will be critical of us some days, councillor.
People are critical of us all the time. However,
I will reflect on that when I meet with our state member of parliament. A few days' time, actually. But yeah, it's been an interesting process, shall we say, between Coorong 7 Mile and Mooney Hills, basically, isn't it? On the community cabinet will be another issue we'll raise, but I can assure you that other councils were more forceful in just that discussion yesterday sorry, you missed that discussion at Narracoorte.
Mine's a procedural question for you,
Mhm.
Mayor and Pregana. It's regarding the questions without notice. I thought we'd moved a motion that we would put the responses into the question, so it didn't just say provided a response. I thought we had agreed that questions without notice would have a response recorded and not just,
Motions without notice of us.
no questions without notice. Motions are different because they,
Okay,
it
we're
was the
sorry.
questions without notice.
We'll have to go back on that, councillor, because we actually can't work out that was committee or here.
Through you, Mayor, if that's the case, and I have to admit without Ashley, I've forgotten whether that is, but we will expand on the answer in the final minutes if that's
Thank
what you
you.
want.
Okay, we've had a fair crack at it.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, my question.
You've got a
is
question?
regarding the grading. Do you want that as a question or on
No,
notice?
The CEO will take it on notice because,
I'll move a motion without notice then.
No.
no, we'll just take it as a question on notice. We'll deal with it.
Okay, the question is,
No,
Haven't we got?
you've asked the question, we've got to take it on notice, so. Oh, well, you want to know why? Yes, sorry, I'll take your point, councillor. You want to know why we appear to have lesser kilometres done in the last couple of months of patrol grading?
what I was proposing, the council prepare a report. on the-
No, we'll just take it as a question without notice. We'll respond to councillors.
Well, it's not in, it's not.
It's about to be. About to be.
Oh,
I'm sorry we did slip over you. You were ahead of the game before and now we're at the back end. Just as a general explanation, there's been a lot of staff have had to take leave in the last few months, to be quite honest.
And there's no redundancy.
As you know, we run a pretty tight show and the reason it will come out later. We can't give you an answer here. Anyone else? Okay. I have 13.1. I have motions with notice. I have none. 13.2, motions without notice. Councillor Rountree is the first one. You submitted a written one, I think.
Have emailed it through so that you've got the wording, and it's basically that council investigate the barriers to the agricultural sector, taking up solar opportunities, particularly for larger scale farmers, whilst remaining grid connected.
You've moved that way. It's close to the seconder first before Councillor Peach is the seconder. You just, and you know my reluctance around motions without notice, but
Mhm.
I always ask you to put them in as motions with notice,
Mhm.
but we'll have a crack at this one. Can you just explain what your concerns are here?
I can. So, and I can probably talk from personal experience in wanting to run irrigation systems using solar. There is, without naming names of companies, there is reluctance to give us the infrastructure we need to do it. And it's through SA Power Networks, don't really want to see
No, we
people
just wouldn't go there.
completely off grid.
Yeah.
And being able to do this. And I think it actually slows down what we're trying to achieve, because we can't move forward with the size of our inverters and also battery capacity. And I just think there are blockages there that I think council might have an opportunity to look at that could help farmers move ahead with using solar instead of diesel, certainly in our case with irrigation pumps.
There's an advocacy motion, this one. We
Yeah,
need
it's
to
an
find out
advocacy
who-
motion, yes,
Who might be dealing with this
yes,
within some government somewhere.
yes. Yes, thank you. Advocacy motion.
I'll speak, councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This came out of conversation this morning, in and around, workshops. And as you've just rightly pointed out, it is an advocacy motion to see what council may be able to do to perhaps open up some opportunities for local agricultural businesses.
Okay. Anyone else got any, everyone understands what it's about?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I agree with the sentiments, but I don't really think it's a position of council. It's a commercial decision made by an individual owner of a property. And that really council shouldn't be involved in that.
Well, we won't be in a physical sense. I take the motion is we need to understand as a community
Mm.
what barriers are stopping people still being connected to the grid, but operating. And this will become a very quick and emerging issue.
Yes.
Operating
I asked the
substantive,
question, what has that got to do with council?
well, not in a direct sense, but an advocacy sense it
right.
could have.
Yeah.
That's why it's an advocacy motion, not a dollar motion.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, can I ask, are we talking about solar panels and batteries? They won't let you, is that what?
If I may, so there are currently limitations based particularly around spur lines, fixed limitations around what inverter technology can be used while you remain grid connected. And I think the technologies move beyond that, potentially for producers, but the ability of regulation to catch up with that hasn't happened yet.
You've got it. Okay, is everyone reasonably confident that this is an advocacy motion? Short notice.
Mhm.
We'll close, councillor.
Close.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Okay, all councillors except councillor Arthur voted for the motion. Voting against the motion is councillors O'Hara and Arthur. Sorry. I scanned the room quickly.
So,
For the motion was councillors Bland, Beach, Maidman, Roundtree and Qualman. Still carried, councillors. Councillor Qualman, you indicated you may have a motion without notice. Are you still pursuing that?
Yes, I'm still doing that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I've given the actual motion to the minute taker. And I may read it out if that's okay. And my apologies. I'm doing this because I've only been brought to my attention the last few days, so that's why I would have done it with notice. But anyway, it concerns excess traffic, Granite Road, Railway Terrace, and it goes like this. Councillor Corman moves that council consider to install the appropriate traffic counters in the vicinity of Railway Terrace and Granite Road intersection, Tarlem Bend. Finish.
The seconder?
I just ask if you have a reason why.
Most certainly.
Yes, you can. May I reply? Railway Terrace and Granite Road is probably the most busiest part of Tarlem Bend. With the upcoming grain season, it's going to be even busier. And I've been receiving complaints and concerns, especially parents with school kids trying to go across Granite Road, which is quite dangerous at the moment. And there is a lot of traffic that goes through there, heaps of traffic. And I said, well, why not? Let's go the first step and find out how much traffic is using Railway Terrace and Granite Road intersection.
With the view of? With the view of what? When you get the traffic counted?
Well, then we could have a workshop, Mr. Mayor, if I may, of ways to mitigate risk. And, you could have passive pedestrian crossing, even further down to have lights. And once I said, I know it's a pie in the sky, a roundabout, but it's I think we should do something, at least show the community that we do care. Because there's also been concerns about 50k speeding limit being reduced to 40 in the main street because of more traffic that we're experiencing. Not only would this help with the intersection, but also would help provide valuable information to how busy the main street gets now. That's part of my argument. Thank you.
After this explanation, I'll send it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wishes to enter the debate, which is really about understanding the traffic volume at probably the busiest intersection of our council roads in this district. From a fair to comment.
Question,
Yeah.
and I can't remember off the top of my head what the current signage is in that area.
Signage or sign?
Signage in relation to children crossings and clearly signed.
If I could be so bold, it's a relatively open and unclear intersection for pedestrians. That'd be my, and that's why if I had a vote, I would be supporting this because it is our busiest and people tend to cut the corner on it, to be quite blunt.
Yes.
And so I'd be interesting figures, and I think it would also start to build our case around how much traffic may be heading out the Cool-D Road eventually. You would have missed that discussion this morning, councillor.
So a follow-up on that is, as a part of that, would it be appropriate to also do a survey of what signage and what should be there in anyway?
Well, maybe, but I'm dealing with a motion without notice, which I would normally not, but I've decided we'll let a couple in today. We'll just start with perhaps a count again and see where the traffic goes, and if that was possible for the harvest. We won't no longer be the bump to go around the corner at Granites Road anymore, we hope. So.
No, I'm fine
No,
with it. I don't have a problem with them.
Anyone else got any discussion, councillors? We'll close, councillor.
I'll close. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, everyone understands that.
Mhm.
Consider installing. It's not an absolute instruction, but. Okay, motion's there. All those in favour? Those against? Councillor O'Hara was the seconder. Carried unanimously, Della. Thank you. Number 14, minute action list, councillors. Councillor Peach.
Minute 201-23, the cash advance debenture. That's now completed, so that's all been approved and dealt with.
Yes.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, we've signed the forms. Yeah. Councillor Arthur.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'm just wondering with the comment made by the how we're going to stand with our Salt Creek when they firstly made the statement, roadside toilet blocks and rest stops will be no longer entertained.
No, we very careful, councillor, that that may have been an interpretation people could have made, but we did confirm it later that that's not this one.
Okay, that's well, he was very emphatic about it.
Well, he was looking for ways to move money to other projects, and we did, CEO in particular, follow up immediately around that. I can assure you. So,
Thank you.
anyone else with anything out the minute action list? There being none, we will move on to the next item, which is confidential items. So for those watching the live stream, please be advised the meeting is about to move into confidence and the live stream will stop. For those who wish to view the end of the meeting, the video will be available on YouTube after today's meeting.